create your own yes. That's the great thing about life, and I think people don't understand is they're waiting for a yes. They're waiting for the opportunity. Go get that fucker. It's yours.
You are now tuning in to the Roughnecks podcast with your host, Cole Nixon. Much love.
What's up, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Roughnecks podcast. Before we get into today's episode, I have some awesome news for you guys. We are approaching Black Friday, which means we are going to have sales. If you head over to roughneckspodcast.com, you can get any of our products 25% off from Friday, November 24th until Monday, November 28th. So head over to roughneckspodcast.com. Grab yourself some discounted Roughnecks merch. But let's get into today's guest. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Roughnecks podcast. We have a guest episode on a Friday because I am behind on episodes. That is my fault. I've had the episodes. I just struggle getting them edited along with the full-time job. But just a couple quick announcements. First thing is we don't really have many big announcements other than the Wednesday episodes. So Reno's rants are going to Wednesdays, and we are potentially going to change all of our Friday episodes to Wednesdays. So be on the lookout for that. Other than that, there's nothing right now, but me, Dante, and Reno have been in the background doing a lot of work to kind of revamp this podcast, maybe reshape it a little bit coming into the new year. A lot of new things coming, a lot of good things coming, so be on the lookout for that. Other than that, nothing. Today is another guest recommendation from Reno. Super pumped about this one. It is another NFL guy, football guy, so I'm super happy to get into this conversation. But without further ado, Nick, welcome to the Roughnecks podcast.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, Cole. It's good to be here. I'm excited. It's going to be a good chat, and it'll get pretty interesting, I got a feeling.
So the first thing I like to do on the episodes is allow the guests to give a background on themselves, because I've tried giving background on guests, and it usually doesn't go well because I miss so many things. So I like to let the guests give the background on themselves. So tell us who you are.
All right. Well, my name's Nick Holley. I'm 28 years old. Grew up in a small country town, Ottawa Lake, Michigan. I have a twin brother, older sister, father, and then my mother, who passed away when I was 18. Started playing football at a young age of 8 years old. Went to school at Whitmer High School. Had success there. We went to the Final Four 2 years in a row, and then went to state championship after that. My twin brother and myself were fortunate enough to go on to play Division I college at Kent State University with Reno. He was actually one of my offensive linemen. And then following an astronomical amount of adversities and injuries, the good Lord had blessed me and given me an opportunity to compete at the NFL level with the LA Rams, and ended up tearing an ACL, and things kind of transpired, and had to overcome yet again, but still got an opportunity to continue my football journey in the XFL with the Houston Roughnecks. Obviously COVID hit, stopped the whole universe, and then shut down the XFL. And after that, it was the CFL with the Calgary Stampeders, and then went back to the XFL with the Houston Roughnecks, and now the San Antonio Brahmas. So that's a little bit of my football journey. Come from, like I said, a very blue-collared family. My mom and dad worked three jobs, hardworking, great individuals. My mother was a freaking saint. She was a mom to everybody and was just the most amazing lady I've ever met. And my sister's a chip off the old block. She's my mother's child, 110,000%. My brother and myself, best friends, but the ultimate competitors to the extreme. We've had our own bouts. Obviously, we always say, I was king in the womb because he ended up coming out first, and I held on the longest, and he says that he got out first, so he won. So it's always been a competition. but yeah, a little bit about me is I'm very adventurous, love to travel, have a couple different business ventures outside of football, and just kind of enjoy life and love kind of getting out there and seeing what's next.
So we're gonna go into like pretty much all of that, obviously. But the first thing I want to go all the way back to kind of the beginning of it with the Kent State. I always like to ask this question to all athletes because I went through it. A lot of other people have gone through it, like deciding their college, and especially when sports are involved. Why did you decide Kent State over other schools? Like, what was it about Kent State that kind of drew you in?
Only school that offered. So, I mean, going through the recruiting process, it's a brutal, and I mean, I'm just gonna say it, being 5'10" and white is not in your favor when you're trying to make yourself, make something of yourself. So coming out of college or coming out of high school, I had broken 22 records in the state of Ohio. I was up for Mr. Ohio. I was up for Athlete of the Year in the nation, like all these accolades, and I was quarterback. Led the team to states, all these things, and still had no opportunities at a Division I school. I mean, it wasn't like we were slouches. We were ranked number 1 in the nation going into the states, so it wasn't like we were slouches. And same with my brother. My brother had all these different accolades. He had, he was a very successful linebacker and receiver, and just did really well. And even the teams from right around the corner of Toledo and other MAC schools, no offers, maybe preferred walk-on, that type of thing. For a little while, Michigan had came and offered, and they wanted me to play corner for them. They showed up, met me, and said, "You're kind of small." So I was probably 5'9.5", 5'10", 173 pounds at the biggest, and never got the opportunity. So Harvard did offer me, Navy offered me, and then Kent State 3 days before signing day came and presented me with a scholarship and wanted me to come on an official walk-on and wanted my brother to tag along, but they weren't going to give him a scholarship. So my brother said pretty much, "Fuck that, I'm not coming." My dad talked him into coming. He went on the official visit, sat down with some of the coaches. The coaches picked his brain, picked his mindset. And by the time we left the official visit, the coaches ended up taking some other kid's scholarship, giving it to my brother. And then we both signed at Kent State. So wasn't necessarily, I didn't know anything about Kent State, and it wasn't necessarily the first choice, but they believed in us, and God willing, we signed that paper and we gave them everything we got.
Yeah, it's kind of really cool to see, being twins especially, and you guys even went to the Rams together, played at the Rams together too. Like you and your brother playing at all 3 levels. What's that like? Like I'm sure that's something that you definitely not many people get that type of memory.
You grow up dreaming of something of like that. I mean, you grow up wanting to be an NFL player. You grow up wanting to be successful. You grow up with dreams, aspirations, but for something to actually come true in that fruition, the only way I can explain it is the stars had to align completely. And I wouldn't say they aligned perfectly and just like it was a scot-free, like, I mean, we moved them motherfuckers into alignment. Like it was a journey, and it was tough, and he went through hell and I went through hell, and for us to be able to get to that moment together. I remember walking out of the tunnel against the Baltimore Ravens. I'm proud to be an American is on the speakers, jets flying over, fireworks going, huge stadium, and him and me are sitting there about to run out the tunnel, and I remember sobbing like a baby, just thinking, man, this all started. We were wearing plastic Michigan Wolverine helmets in the family room doing hamburger drills. If anybody knows that, you lay on your back, you turn over, you smoke each other. And now here we are at the biggest stage, at the highest level, doing something that we've always dreamt of doing. So it was beyond special, not only going through college together, playing high school and Pee Wee together, but being able to play at the pro level has been, and him being my greatest advocate and biggest fan and vice versa all the way up, it's truly special.
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, I couldn't even imagine being able to. Now, my brother was 6 years older than me, so he would have had to made it to the NFL and stayed there for me to ever get the opportunity to really play with him. But it would have been awesome to be able to play. I don't know. Me and him probably would have gotten too many fights if we actually played together. But
Uh,
you played, from my understanding, from what Reno told me, you played quarterback, running back, and receiver all at Kent State. What were you recruited as, and did you expect to be kind of put in these other positions?
so coming out of high school, my football journey's been fucked up. Just let's put it that way. But coming out of high school, my freshman year of high school, I started as a quarterback. I played a little bit of corner, a little bit of free safety. Never really came off the field. Um, Sophomore year of high school, the head coach comes up to me. His son's my same age and wants to play quarterback. And he tells me, "You can't play quarterback." And I said, "Why?" He says, "You got to pick another position." He never gave me a reasoning, obviously, because his son. So he said, "You need to pick another position, and it's not going to be on the offensive side. You won't be touching the ball." So he put me on defense. And he told me I was too good of an athlete to sit the bench. So I started as a sophomore at corner. My junior year, I went to every single quarterback meeting at 5:30 in the morning before school started the whole year. Never missed a single quarterback meeting, knew the playbook inside and out, and never got to touch a football. Never got to throw a ball, never got to nothing. So this whole time I had been preparing. In the off season, during season, I had thrown balls, I had met with people, I had studied quarterbacks. There's a lot of things that I did, but never got a chance to touch the field as a quarterback or on offense in general. So sophomore year, junior year, kind of went the same. Corner, free safety, led the team in picks, all that good stuff. My senior year, after one, my father's a dude that he don't take shit from nobody. So, I'm taking it up the butt while we're having dinner, and he's like, "Why aren't you saying this? Why aren't you doing this?" I'm like, "Dad, I can't control it. He's the head coach, and there's really nothing." I mean, I literally, the head coach and me had an ex meeting. We were screaming at each other till we had no air in our lungs. Like, I'm justifying why I deserve. I said, just an opportunity. I don't care if him and his son and me are level, and we were okay. Give it to him, even if his son's a little bit better, or I'm a little bit better and his son's a little worse. Okay, give it to him. I said, but if the competition ain't even close, at least let me earn the job. And he never gave me that chance. So finally, my senior year of high school, thank God, but he decided to take a job at another school, and he took his son with him. So the quarterback coach came up to me and said, "Hey, you can tell me to go fuck myself, but I'd like you to play quarterback." And I said, "Well, you can go fuck yourself, but I'll play." So ended up playing quarterback just my senior year of high school, broke all those records, did really well. And also played corner and free safety and did some return stuff and special team stuff your quarterback don't usually do. And then come to college, Kent State had offered me and recruited me and told me they were going to recruit me as an athlete. Said when I got there, I was going to get to pick my position. Well, everybody knows that's bullshit. So I show up in my locker and it says number 85, wide receiver. And
Yeah, because Reno had something similar. They recruited him, I believe, as a defensive end tight end, and then put him at a neo line after his redshirt year.
Oh, yeah, they'll do that to you. Yeah. So I show up, I'm number 85, which couldn't be more of a weenie number, and for a white dude especially, and then wide receiver. I played a lot of positions in my life. Receiver definitely was not one of them. So I ended up playing. I started on all special teams as a true freshman. So my first game was LSU, which was awesome. And then the whole first year went by, and I just pretty much played special teams. I didn't really get in at receiver, but when we were playing scout team in practice, they always made me play whoever was the most athletic guy on the other team. Well, a lot of times in the MAC, that's either your quarterback or your running back. So I started to play, I forget his name, Jordan something. He played for NIU. Started playing quarterback to emulate him. The run pass type quarterback, and I started tearing our starting defense up in college. So I get done with my freshman year. Head coach calls me in, says, "Nick, what position you want to play?" I said, "Quarterback." He said, that's not going to happen. You're too short. Pick another position. I said, well, if I can't play quarterback, which obviously I've been told before, I'll be a running back. At least I'll get the ball more. I'll be in the backfield. I'll have a little bit more control of the game. So sophomore year, I'm our starting running back. Junior year, I'm our starting running back. Third game in the season, I end up jump a dude from Minnesota. I end up landing. Dude hits me in the back, and I broke my back. So ended up breaking my transverse process L3, L2, L4 on both sides. And obviously that's the end of that season. So end up rehabbing, coming back, fixing that issue. And then my redshirt junior year, I'm back at running back. They had a specific package for me the third game of the season. We had played Alabama. And they had a specific package for me where I was going to play some running back and receiver. And they did the same thing versus Penn State. So they singled me up against the number 1 draft pick, and I was running routes against him and running some running back. I was coming out of the backfield doing all kinds of things. Well, we had two quarterbacks get hurt in that game. And before the plane had even landed and I had gotten off the landing strip or whatever, Coach Haynes came up to me and said, hey, you want to play quarterback? So, same situation kind of happened. Ended up starting to play quarterback. My first game was against Akron, which was our rivals. Ended up tearing it up, had all kinds of yards, did pretty well. And then from there on out, I kind of was our guy in offense. And I think I only say this, I don't mean to be boastful, but I think there was a stat out there that said I accommodated for 93% of the offense, I think it was, but that was running and passing. So it was kind of cool. But anyways, fast forward, get to the end of the season, end up tearing my ACL, MCL, and medial meniscus in my right. So end of season, I think we only had one game after that left. End up rehabbing that the entire off season, wearing a brace. I think my first game to test the old knee out was Clemson after their national title victory. So that was great. And then I think it was game 3 or 4 against Marshall. I went to make a read, going to pull the ball. The defensive or the linebacker blitzes. He's about to light up my running back. I'm pulling it, thinking, "Oh, this is gonna be sweet. I'm wide open." My running back clamps down the brace for it, pulls me forward. I snapped my other ACL. So now I just got off the right ACL now and MCL, medial meniscus. Now I just tore my left ACL again. So going into rehab, end up getting that right. I think it was just about after surgery, 4.5 months. And I have pro day and I have mini camp. So at 4.5 months, I have to go. I have to show them that I'm able to do something at pro day. So I competed in pretty much everything. Ended up going on. The LA Rams signed me as a free agent. Went through mini camp, went through OTAs, went through preseason. In some way, shape, or form in between all that, I retore it. So this is the third ACL. And, just that at that point, I remember I went back to my hotel room and I sat in my shower and freaking bawled my eyes out in the dark and just more so was devastated because I had known it's like they say 10 to 12, but 12 to 14 for it to be fully healed, 12 to 14 months. So it's a heck of a recovery process, and I never gave mine time to heal. So long story short, fast forward past that, I've torn it again. So I've had 4 ACLs, and kind of had to battle the adversity of those. My back, different positions, yada yada yada. Ended up finishing out at quarterback in college. Going into the Rams, they were the only team. I was preparing for slot receiver. They were the only team that said, we're going to put you at running back. So I'm like, shit. So now I'm a running back in the NFL, which you might as well go get ran over by a semi-truck. That's pretty much how it feels. And I had switched positions yet again. After I get done off of that ACL, I get done off of that season, Houston picks me up in the XFL right after, I think it was 6 months after my surgery. And they want me to be a running back. But June Jones, who was one of my favorite coaches of all time, he had an optional throwing before the season. And he had said, hey, we want to put you in the slot and see what you can do. Well, I ended up, I was prepared and I was running routes. So I ended up tearing it up in that optional throwing. So now I'm our starting slot receiver. They use me as running back a little bit, but I'm a slot receiver with the number 33 as a running back and white. So, the respect was minuscule at that point. The swag factor was zero. But anyway, so ended up being in the slot, and from there on out, I stayed in the slot, and I've really enjoyed it. So I've been a slot receiver. There's the only time I've actually had a consistent position back to back years. So I've had 3 years in the slot, and I actually had a conversation with the GM recently who made a decision to let me go, which is, the nature of the business. And, he had said, we feel as if you've reached your potential. And I said, well, first and foremost, I'm grading out higher than all these other guys and out competing them and outperforming them. I said, and if you disagree, you can tell me. I'm a man. I can take it. He didn't disagree. And I had said, and you feel as if, you guys say you feel as if I've reached my peak, but I've only played this position for 3 years. These guys have been playing this position their whole life. I said, I'm still learning. I got a lot more in me. So that was kind of the conversation, and then I ended up going somewhere else. But I have not been consistently in the same position ever since Little League. So it's been interesting.
Have playing multiple positions kind of helped you with the other one, or does it make it challenging?
110,000% it has helped me, and in so many different ways. Because if you think about it this way, I diagnose the game like a quarterback. I run routes. Some guys say I run routes more like a running back, but I'm a receiver too. I run routes like I'm unconventional. So I'm not your typical receiver. I'm a shifty guy. I'm more of a. I've only saying this because I've been compared to him, but more of a Julian Edelman type. It's not it's not necessarily ideal, but it works.
Recorded with I just completely forgot his name. What was it, Casey? Played at Kent State, tight end.
Casey Pierce.
Yeah, I just recorded with him last night and was talking to him after and told him that I was recording with you, and he's like, "Yeah, the Edelman guy." That is and actually Reno said the same thing too. It is a very common thing apparently.
Yeah, that's awesome. So where was I? Oh, so I think with the positions though, like I said, I diagnose like a quarterback, so I understand defenses, I understand coverages, I understand fronts, I understand blitzes, and as a receiver, I'm always quarterback friendly because I know what he's got to go through, and I communicate that with my quarterback, and it creates a trust, and he knows I'm gonna be where I'm gonna be when I'll be there, and he also knows that if he throws the ball, it's me or it's nobody. And I know where the zone is. I know where the opens are. I know where things are, or why things are happening, and how they're, or where they're happening. So, and then when I get the ball, I can run the ball like a running back. So I feel like for me, it was actually the best of every world because it prepared me for anything and everything. So I saw it as a blessing.
Yeah, I definitely figured it would have been it helped because I switched positions once in college. I pretty much played defense. I started out playing offense, and then they put me on defense in high school and stuff. And we were lucky enough that I didn't have to play both ways. We had enough, pretty good players that I just played defense in high school. Nobody played both ways until my senior year. And then they put me a corner in college, which I was not a corner. I was way too slow, not big at, it was just bad. I could not play man coverage. We were in a lot of zone that year. I'm a safety. I'll never forget the meeting. I talked about this in the episode with Casey where they pulled me in the office and they're like, we're going to put you at corner because we were really thin at corner that year. And I was like, are you guys sure? You know who you're talking. I don't feel like, and you just go out and do the best you can do, but it's man, I don't know. But playing safety helped me at corner because I knew where my safeties were at least supposed to be in certain coverages because I played it for my whole career. So But I wanted to kind of go back too, because you listed off all the injuries and everything. What was your mindset like through those injuries? I've had injuries, season-ending injuries. They're not fun. What is your mindset like, and like how did you continue to like push through and come like get ready for the next year?
Yeah. Um, well, I'll just say I haven't even scratched the surface of what the injury list actually is. There's been, I mean, both ankles broke, foot broke, clavicle, bicep tendon torn, AC joint, collarbone, hip. I mean, tib, fib, leg. It's been brutal. But I will say this: the mindset going through one, first and foremost, it's always devastating. You're always at a point of rock bottom. And I actually talked to my business partner about this today. Is that I always gave myself 24 hours to 48 hours to feel bad, to feel depressed, to take it in. And then I said, you got a fucking dream and you got goals and aspirations and you've worked way too damn hard to let something like this set you back and to not let you achieve it. And you know how many people said you couldn't? Prove them wrong. Who cares? It's an ACL. It's a broken back. Who gives a fuck? If somebody says you can't do it, I've had after all my surgeries, I've been told to hang it up. Why? If I say I can do something, I'm gonna do it. So that was always my mindset going through, is that, yeah, this sucks. Yeah, this is gonna hurt. But by golly, if I can do it with 4 torn ACLs, and most people can't do it with, 2 good ACLs, then I got something I can look back on and say I'm proud of what I had to achieve and what I had to overcome. So for me, it was always the you can't do it, but prove yourself wrong type of deal. So the mindset was just always keep going.
Yeah, for people, because I my senior year of high school, I didn't have like I didn't have a list of injuries. I just had one injury that I've had pretty much in my career, where I broke my elbow my senior year. I was the only returning starter on defense. I was supposed to be up for these awards, and then I break my elbow, and like felt like all my college dreams just went out the window and everything like that, because I didn't have the numbers for like a D1. The season was, but that senior season was what I was going to try and prove. And it is for people with similar mentalities to us. It's like when people tell you like hang it up, you're done. Because I had 3 doctors tell me you're done for the season, and like I feel like it just flips the switch in us. We're like, now I got to prove you wrong. Like, not, this is not happening. Because I ended up coming back with 4 games left in the season after they told me I was done, and I only missed 4 weeks after, and I was like, it's not happening. But that is like the mindset you should have, even if someone doesn't tell you can't do it. Like you should always have that type of mindset, no matter what you go into, of I'm going to do this. If you have that dream, there's going to be barriers. There's going to be things that try and slow you down to get in your way. You just have to like step over them and get through them. Sometimes you have to literally plow through them to get there. It's like trying to score a touchdown. There's going to be someone in front of you. You have to get through them or get around them. Like you have to find a route into the end zone. That's just how you have to go through life as well.
Yep. And I think a lot of, like for me, I always had a quote on the back of my phone, and it said, if you don't have a dream, what's left? And I thought, man, the only thing somebody can't take from you is your dream. The only thing somebody can't take from you is your mindset. And I also seen another one that said, you might not be able to see the end journey, but if you can see that next step, you have everything that you need. And that was kind of the process of, you never know, like, to be honest, ACL surgery or ACL, first of all, them guys that lay on the field and they go back and forth and they're holding it don't hurt. I mean, I've torn it, and I've torn it where somebody freaking cut tackled me and blew my knee out, and it was as bad as you could have had it. It hurt, but come on now, we play a barbarian sport. And when I broke my back, I was on the other sideline. I jogged all the way to our sideline before hitting the ground. Like there's just things that it hurts. But, when you pop an ACL and it's non-contact, it just feels like you're popping your finger. Like it ain't nothing, right? But
now I'm going to ask, because Reno said you played the entire game or the rest of the game after you tore your ACL one time.
Yeah, I tore my ACL. I tore my ACL, MCL, and medial meniscus. I remember this. I'm gonna call him out because I hope he sees this. But my tight end Ryan Malone, he missed the block, and a dude came and cut tackled me, and my knee just exploded. I mean, I'm talking, like I said, ACL, MCL, medial meniscus. So when they did the Lockman's test, which is when they move it up and down, it never stopped. Like it just kept going. Right, my knee was doing this, and then they did the MCL test. I don't know what that one's called. But say your ACLs, your knees like this, right? And it only moves this much when they go side to side with it. Well, they took my foot and they were able to move it 90 degrees the whole way because the ligament was completely gone. So I said, "Can I play?" They said, "Well, see what you can do about running." And I was running and it was popping in and out. So I told him, "Give me a brace." So I put a little basically like you go to a dollar store and get it. Like it was just a Velcro brace on it. And I remember going to the sideline. My brother was actually in the stands at this point because he was going through some things himself. And he said, "Go to a place you ain't never fucking been and go do this, go do the thing," pretty much. So I went in a whole new mindset. Like I went, hawk mode is what I called it. But it happened in the second quarter. And I ended up having to go through halftime, which everybody knows when you have an injury, the when you stop, that's when it really hurts. So I ended up going through halftime. The trainers weren't going to help me out, so I carried a bike on my shoulders from outside all the way into the tunnel in BG, set it down, and while they were doing meetings, I was on the bike the whole time, keeping my knee warm. So I went through halftime and went all the way through the game with a torn MCL, ACL, medial meniscus, and every time I ran the ball 12 times after that and rolled out the throw. I don't know how many times, but I went to get up off the ground and say, "This is my knee." I went to get off and this was touching the ground. Like it dislocated and I'd have to get up and snap it back into place every time. It was not good. It wasn't fun, but that's just the mentality we always had though, is that nothing was going to stop us.
It's a great mentality to have. I mean, you wouldn't be in the position that you are today if you never had that mentality. You probably wouldn't even have made it to Kent State if you never had that mentality. I mean, you were essentially told no from the start. No, you can't play quarterback. No, you can't do this. No, no, no. All it takes is that one yes, or pushing through to get to that yes, to get what you deserve, really.
You create your own yes. That's the great thing about life, and I think people don't understand is they're waiting for a yes. They're waiting for the opportunity. Go get that fucker. It's yours. That's the great thing about this life, is that it's ours and we can do with what we want with it. If you have a goal, if you have a dream, if you have something you want to achieve, why not? Just because society says no or somebody else says no, that doesn't mean you can't do it. It's yours. It's your life. You live unapologetically for you and only you. And other than that, everything else will come.
Waiting is a big thing in today's world, especially everybody talks about, "Oh, I'm waiting for the right time to start my business. I'm waiting for the right time to get back into the gym." There is no right time. It's creating your own yes and waiting for things to come to you. That is a big thing, especially with the younger generation, which I'm partially a part of, but I feel like I do not have that mentality of waiting for things to happen. You can't wait for things to happen. You have to make them happen. Do you really think that Thomas Edison waited for the right thing to happen? Do you really think Elon Musk, all these guys that are very successful now, do you really think they just sat and waited around? I mean, no. They started things in garages to build multi-billion-dollar companies to do all this kind of thing. That's just how it works. What's up, everybody? I wanted to interrupt today's guest episode for a quick second and tell you guys about Roughnecks merch. If you head over to roughneckspodcast.com, grab yourself some Roughnecks gear. We have many different types of options. There are t-shirts, long sleeves, sweatshirts, hats, coffee cups, tumblers, and much more. My personal favorite is the Take No Bull shirt or the classic black Roughnecks t-shirt. That was the first merch ever sold, so if you were looking for an original, that is the way to go. Buying merch and wearing it out is one of the best ways to support the podcast, so head over to roughneckspodcast.com and grab yourself some Roughnecks merch. Let's get back to today's guest. But you listed off some of the teams earlier too that you guys played against. LSU, Alabama, Clemson, I believe Ohio State as well. Which Reno hates Ohio State. I do have to ask this question. Reno hates Ohio State now. He grew up an Ohio State fan, and after playing them, he absolutely hates them. I want to know if it's the same because Casey said he doesn't remember it the same way Reno does.
Honestly, I don't really. I mean, I was an Ohio State fan growing up. I don't say I'm a fanboy for anybody. I like watching good football. It don't really matter to me who wins or loses. I place a $5 bet on Ohio State to win when they play Michigan against my father, just because it's our tradition. But other than that, like, it doesn't really matter to me. I grew up a Buckeyes fan, so for me, just being in the horseshoe and my brother and me being from that area or Toledo, but we had a lot of news channels there interviewing us, and that was, it was just a cool experience. I remember being out there. I mean, I remember the team was ready to warm up. They had all their pads on stuff, and Nathan and me are still out in our shorts and t-shirts, freaking slinging the football like we're 12-year-old kids on the football field. So, it was just an experience. I remember going to a spring game once when my dad took me. I watched it, the spring game in the stands while it was pouring down rain. So, other than that, that's the only time I've been to the shoe. But, I mean, we played them, too. We played Ohio State, Alabama, and Clemson all when they won the national title. So, we played some dudes. They had a team. But I don't remember necessarily hating them. I just remember, I honestly, I think I averaged, if I remember, like 5.1 yards a carry. I had a good game. I mean, I wouldn't complain at all. I do remember there was a screen pass, and I think Colin was our quarterback at that point, Colin Reardon. And I'm at running back, go to, fake block, turn around, and he's already got this a huge amount of pressure, and he lobs it way up in the air. And everybody knows that ain't good. You don't want to give too much time. So I go to jump up for the ball after waiting a while, and you just hear the crowd go, so you're about to get smacked. And so that was one of the memories I remember from the game. But I don't remember having any, hatred towards them, or, to me, they're just another team. Just other people to compete against.
I'm going to have to come back at Reno on this because Reno he's talked it on the podcast multiple times about the fans were terrible, the food was terrible, the hotel staff, like everything was so bad. And I'm like, I mean, you guys did play on the week after Virginia Tech, after they lost to Virginia Tech. So like there's a little bit of fire in the air because it did not sit well with Ohio State. But
yeah, I don't. Honestly, I don't remember. I don't. I focused on the games and didn't really. But I mean, nothing obviously against Reno or Casey or anybody. But I feel like in between, that was my sophomore year of college. So the amount of games I played in between then and now has been, so I don't really remember all that much.
Yeah, but you played against all those big time schools and teams that went on to win a national championship. Which team, and it may not even have been one of these, but which team was like the toughest team that you played against in college?
So I'm going to say I'll give you two categories. The freakiest team I ever seen, body build wise, was definitely Alabama. I've never even seen, even NFL wise, I've never seen a team that big. Like, they look like avatars. It was freaky. But the best team, and you'll never believe it, but the best team we ever played, the best defense I ever went against, was NCA&T. It was an all-black college. And them boys, I think they're like, I don't know, they're either Division I AA or whatever they were. Smaller school. Them dudes, man, anytime you had the ball in your hands, 11 of those guys smacked you. They were the most well-coached team I had ever played. And I complimented the coach after the game. I mean, we beat them. But every single time you had the ball, you were getting hit by 11 dudes. They flew around, they ran, they were well coached. I mean, that was the best team. Best team. When I say if I look at a team, that was the best team we had played collectively. I mean, but obviously you got, we played Illinois, Minnesota, Penn State twice, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, LSU. We had played some teams, Illinois. So you obviously had seen some greats, but if you say the most well-coached, impressive team that I seen, it was NCA&T, which is kind of crazy.
I like that because that's not listing off all those other big time teams, the Big Ten and SEC teams that you played, ACC, you'd expect it to be one of those, but it's not always the case. And that's what I love about college football is there's so many teams out there, and it does depend on the coach, a lot of it too, but just playing against so many great players. And it's crazy that you talked about Alabama like you've never seen anything like that, even in the NFL. That's just crazy what Nick Saban's able to do recruiting wise and everything like that.
But I think that's the best testament you can have in football and in life is that it doesn't matter the talent level, it doesn't matter your body, it doesn't matter the intangibles. If you can collectively come together and play together as a team and for one another and be disciplined, you'll win. You'll win in life. You'll win in games. I mean, my high school career, my junior year, we were stacked. We had so many Division I players, it wasn't even funny. My senior year, when we went to states, and we were number one in the nation, and we had one dude that had a scholarship, one dude that had an offer. My brother and me ended up after the season 3 days before, pretty much damn near had to beg for one, and then we had another guy that walked down somewhere. But other than that, you would have thought we were the Bad News Bears. Like, if you looked at us as a team, you're like, these dudes can't. But we were Division I, freaking whooping everybody. Deshaun Kaiser, 42-0. Mitch Trubisky, freaking 60-something to 30 or whatever. We tore everybody up. The biggest names in football, we tore up in high school. But it's because we had a team. We had dudes that were like the NCAAs that flew to the football, that smacked you in the mouth, and that took shit from nobody. Didn't matter who it was. It was David versus Goliath, and we were ready to go. Always.
When you have that team chemistry, especially, it makes a giant difference. My junior year was the second time my school ever went to playoffs, and it was, or not junior, sophomore year. It was the second time our school ever went to playoffs, and it was a big reason. Our senior class was small. I think there was only like 8 of them, but they brought the team together, and the egos didn't get in the way. Everybody was like playing for that same goal. Like they didn't care who was playing beside them. Everybody just do their job, do what you got to do. And then junior year, I'm not going to name names or anything, but we had some people with egos. They were seniors now, and because that was the stacked class. But when you let egos get in the way and you're not all going for the same goal, it kind of that's where you start to separate yourself sometimes. But so you played also in multiple different stadiums. I would like to know, playing in multiple different, of these big time schools, and it may not even be one of those, but which stadium was your favorite that you ever played in?
LSU. Probably
I'm
LSU.
pretty sure Reno had the same answer.
Yeah, they all have a different feel to them, but LSU, they call it Death Valley for a reason. It's because when you're on the field and you look up, that person that's all the way at the top looks like they're looking straight down on you, because instead of it being a bowl, it's up like this. So it's the loudest stadium. Now Clemson was real loud. Clemson was real loud too, but all of them are cool stadiums. They're all really memorable and really awesome. But LSU it was different. It was cool. They had the what do you call it? Not the zoo, but they had something for the tiger. After his sanctuary, and it was pretty dang cool to see. And when you come in, people are lined up on the walk and talking shit to you. And I don't know, it was a cool atmosphere. Just really fun to play in. So probably LSU. At pro level though, I'm gonna tell you what, pro level, it's obviously they're all cool, but the New Orleans Saints, man, that stadium, Mercedes-Benz stadiums, and when they go to do their intro, like I didn't know, it caught me off guard. All of a sudden I'm running on the field and the lights go black. You can't see nothing. And then all of a sudden flames and smoke, and the team's coming out and they're all black. It was badass. I'll give it to them. So it was cool. But yeah, those and then Penn State. So Penn State, I remember, I think it was sophomore or freshman, one of the two. I'm doing punt returns, and half their stadium is student section. It is crazy. I mean, it is nuts. So I remember I'm standing on the 10-yard line, and I think I was a freshman. I'm an 18-year-old kid, fresh out of high school, and standing on the 10-yard line, and the punter booms it, and it's one of them things where the crowd was so loud that my face mask was shaking while I was trying to catch the ball, and I remember it just being blurry. As soon as that thing went up, I was fair catch, like, trying to track it down. But I remember my face mask; they were so loud that my face mask was like vibrating. So it was kind of cool.
I have heard that Penn State, I've never been there, but I've heard that Penn State can be one of the loudest stadiums that people have ever been in. Like, even in the stands, like, you can't hear anything.
They get it. The loudest was definitely Clemson for me when I was at quarterback. I went from ear hole to ear hole of each one of my offensive linemen to scream the play so that they knew what it was. Like, I couldn't even hear myself think. It was nuts. But it was cool.
That's where I struggle watching football sometimes with people that just don't quite understand, where they're like, snap the ball. And it's like, nobody can hear him. That's the problem. Like, nobody can hear what the quarterback is saying. That's why everybody's looking at him. Like, how did you not know the play? Because nobody knows what the change is, because you can't hear. That's why he has to go to each individual player and talk to them.
Yeah, I couldn't, like I said, I had to scream in everyone's ear hole. So I told them we're all going on the silent cadence. Well, I had one of my offensive linemen, I ain't gonna name no names, he knows who he is, but he ain't the brightest bulb in the box, period. He jumps off sides twice. So I come off the sidelines, and my quarterback coach / offense coordinator gets in my ass. Did I tell you to go on the fucking silent cadence and all this? And I'm like, hold up. Are you on the fucking field? Then you shut the fuck up, because you have no clue. You have no clue. For one, you never even played football. Two, you've never had to orchestrate or deal with that type of noise or that type of crowd. They can't even hear me from 2 inches away. How are they supposed to hear me from 5 yards away? It ain't gonna happen. So I remember, man, I was ready to put them through a wall. Like, you can't be that ignorant. But,
so after college, made your way into the NFL. What was that first NFL practice like? Was it shocking? Was it any different than college? Like, what was it, a step up? How was it?
Nerve-wracking. Because you're one, they don't take no time to teach you anything. Like, it's sink or swim. So you're out there with the entire playbook on day one. And when they throw you in there, you're expected to know. And if you don't, you're fucked. And there ain't no, like, I'm waiting on you. Especially when you're a undrafted free agent. Like, you might have limited reps and limited opportunities to prove yourself. And when you do, you got to make an impact. So luckily I had a pretty dang good camp and did pretty well. But and the Rams organization was awesome. They were super inviting. There was a family oriented deal, and they were cool guys. But yeah, it was. You talk about this. This is how you put it, and this kind of give you perspective. To live your dream, you got to take somebody else's, and the pressure of every day having to be absolutely perfect, man, it's tough. It's tough, and you kind of got to remind yourself, man, this is something I've always dreamed of. You got to enjoy it, because one, it ain't gonna last forever, and you got to soak it all in. So I started to calm down a little. I've never been somebody that pressure or nerves have ever gotten to me. I remember feeling it, but it never hindered my performance. But the only thing that I had to make sure I reminded myself was that it was a game, and I need to enjoy the process, because I would work, my ass off to get to this point. So it was cool. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. It was cool.
That's what Casey kind of talked about too. It's like you do have that pressure, and you have to know everything, because he said every day somebody's getting cut. Like, and it could be you, especially as an undrafted guy, like an undrafted free agent. So, like, you have to know your playbook, and that would be, I mean, in college, at least for us, I was only 83, but you slowly worked into the playbook each day at practice and camp. And NFL, it's just like some of these guys have been playing here for 5-10 years maybe. So, like, they already know the playbook, and they're not going to slow down and wait for you guys, which it did suck in college when you're a senior and you're like going through the playbook on like day one, and they're like, all right, we're going to put in our first coverage. And I'm like, well, can we just skip to like day 10?
Yeah. Oh, I know. Well, yeah, they don't do that in the NFL. They're not only is everything that they already had put in their entire playbook, but now they're already scheming for the first game. So you have to learn the entire playbook. So there's three playbooks. There's three playbooks, and in the huddle there's two calls. So when you see a quarterback go to a huddle or go to the line, he goes like this. He's calling can. That means we're running the second play that we called in the huddle. So there's two plays called in the huddle, pretty much every play. So, but there's three different playbooks. There was a Hollywood package, there was a jet package, and there was a number package. So the jet package or the Hollywood package was a huge package of code words, but it was Hollywood names. The jet package was a fast-paced, tempoed offense that had code words that were like structures, mansions, buildings, all that stuff, right? And jet protections. And then the number system, there was a number system from, I think it was 1 to 40 or 1 to 50, where they'd just say 1, and that was a play. 4, that was a play. So you were expected to know all three of those on top of your job and everything going on. And then you had to learn what was going on, what they were installing for the next shift. So in installation, I mean, you're talking, if you would have known the playbook inside and out, even the installation alone, like the guys that had been there forever, they're messing it up because it's a lot to retain. So imagine a rookie having to learn all that plus the installation and having the anxiety and of going out there having to perform. It ain't for the faint of heart. That's for damn sure.
Were there any players when you were in the NFL that like stuck out to you or maybe like helped you out a bunch? Like, was there anybody that you can think of off the top of your head that really made an impact on you?
There ain't too many people that are going to help you out there. They're good guys. They're nice guys, but they ain't going to help you take their job. So that aspect's kind of difficult. I would like to. I think Todd Gurley and myself, we had a pretty good relationship. We were cool with one another. We had a prank war that was brutal. And he said, never mess with, I won't say the words he used, but never mess with a dude with a lot of money. And I said, never mess with a guy who ain't got nothing to lose. So we went at it pretty hefty. And then I would say one of the guys that was couple stories. Brandon Cooks, he came up to me first day, introduced himself, real nice guy. And then Andrew Whitworth, obviously, he was the first guy I seen when I walked in the locker room. I was like, one, he's a mountain of a man, and two, he's been in the NFL longer, and I've been playing football. So, he looked like an old man, but he can play. And then another guy that kind of shocked me was Ndamukong Suh. So Ndamukong Suh, everybody knows him as a badass, as a kind of a hothead, as a guy that's not necessarily someone you'd want on your team, but he's one of the most down-to-earth, soft-spoken, intelligent individuals I've ever met. He's good buddies with Warren Buffett. Was just a cool guy, just quiet. He just freaking has that switch. He turns it on and he gets after it. But other than that, Coach McVay was awesome. He is super intelligent, super energetic, and I don't have much bad things to say about it. But I wouldn't say there was necessarily somebody that was like, "Hey, come here, buddy. Let me help you out. Like, let me show you the ropes." So,
yeah, it does make sense. I mean, it is a job. It's like you don't want to train the guy to take your job unless you're not planning on being there anymore. So it's definitely I understand that. What was training camp like? I know you talked on it a little bit, but like, is it comparable to college or is it completely different other than the playbook, like, workload wise and that kind of stuff?
Probably a little bit. Well, I'll be honest. When you're a quarterback in college, the last 2 years, quarterback in training camp is a breeze. So, I mean, you got a lot of retain and you got a lot of responsibility, but I mean, and I was more of a running quarterback. As I wasn't a running, I ran in through, but I ran more than most quarterbacks. So I was still running. But you ain't running routes nonstop. You ain't doing, I'm sitting there throwing the ball. So it was not that bad. But I would say compared to the pros, like, one, you're expected to be in shape. Two, you're expected to be able to perform. And three, they're not going to beat you into oblivion because one, a lot of them guys are worth a lot of money, and two, something that my running back coach had told me, he says, I can't teach you how to run the ball. That's why you're here. He said, I can't teach you this or that. He goes, I can teach you to play. I can teach you the steps. He says, but once you get that ball in your hands, you do what you do. And I think that's a lot that has to do with the NFL is that a lot of those coaches, like, they can give you kind of little tips and tricks and things of that nature, but you're there because you can play. Most likely. There's some dudes there that they just have great knee pads. I'll just put it that way. But there's some guys there, though, that, there's guys there that they can play. And there's not much you can do to. So practice is it's 1,000,000 miles an hour, but it's controlled. And they're not beating you into the ground. You're not, so I wouldn't say it's necessarily difficult, but it's definitely.
When you ended up going to the XFL, was it similar to the NFL? Or like, what was the XFL like when you got there?
It was way harder. So June Jones, who, like I said, he's one of my favorite coaches of all time. He was our offensive coordinator, and he don't give you a playbook. You get no playbook. You have to write notes, and you learn it on the field. It's the run and shoot offense, and he's a mastermind. So we literally would do, how people have individual periods where you're with your group and you're doing whatever you're doing. We would run routes on air for like an hour and a half, nonstop, like deep route, just freaking over and over and over and over. But every single time he'd give you one route and there's 7 different combinations. If it's cover 1, you do this. Cover 2, you do this. If cover 4, you do this. If it's cover 3, you do, so there's all these different scenarios. Well, now you go through the entire playbook and I can't even tell you how many routes you have and conversions and such. So there's a lot to learn in learning how to recognize a defense when it's disguised while you're running full speed. It's bang, bang, bang. So it's all repetition. So we used to do freaking 2 a days, 3 a days while I was with them. We were doing 2 3-hour long practices and doing workouts as well. And everybody was dead. I mean, legs were shot. It was brutal. But he promised us before the first game, he said, you will have your legs under you and you will be fine. And he wasn't kidding. He had us ready. He had us prepared. And come game 1, we were the most prepared team and we beat everybody. So it was way worse, I would say.
If you had to pick one, if you could like go back or pick one or the other, would it be NFL or XFL?
What do you mean?
If you to play in one.
Oh, NFL.
I figured. I just wanted to see.
It's way too good. I mean, when you're a small country, the blue collar, you come from a blue collar family from a small country town, and you're sitting in an infinity pool in Calabasas overlooking Will Smith's house. Come on now, like that. I had my own driver, it was the lifestyle. It was anything and everything you ever dreamt up and more. And you were somebody. I mean, when you're in the XFL, you're playing a professional sport. You're getting paid to do it. You're doing really well. There's still people that, in Houston, I have a huge crowd. I got people in my corner and I love them. I mean, they're awesome. But man, it's one thing when you tell somebody, hey, I'm an XFL player. Like, oh, some of them heard of it, some of them ain't. Some of them think that's cool, some of them what. But if you say you're an NFL player, that's a whole new level. That's a whole new level of respect. That's a whole new level of wow. That's a whole new level of athlete. So for me, I've always wanted to compete at that. And to be honest, I'm gonna just say this up front. There's dudes in the XFL that are way better athletes and way better players than some of the guys in the NFL. But like I said, when the stars align and somebody's got great knee pads or somebody, just kind of gets in with somebody, it's unfortunate, but it happens. And, so you're not necessarily competing with everybody that's the best of the best, but the NFL is just freaking, that's the top of the top. And everybody knows that. So to be able to be a part of that, that's special.
What would you say to a young guy if he came up to you and was like, what do I have to do? What would you recommend for me to do? Like, what advice would you give for me to make it to the top, to make it up to the NFL, the XFL, all the highest of the highest levels, like what advice would you give?
Depends how old he is. And I only say that because I've had talks with kids in high school, and I tell them you're too late. You're too late. If you're not 6'7", 6'5", or extremely gifted in tangibles, you know, whatever, running a 4.2 or, you know, something along those lines. If you're not doing that, you're too late. If you started working as a high school, you're too late. So what I had said is what was instilled in my brother and me at a very, very young age. My father was very hard on us, but he instilled a work ethic that was untouchable. It was second to none. And there was nobody that was going to be able to outcompete us or keep up with us in any and every way. And there was actually, I don't know if Reno will remember this or Casey, but we were freshmen in college, and we got to workouts, and we had a strength and conditioning coach called Coach Sharp. And at least I don't think so. I'm not a very cocky person. I'm not conceited. I don't really talk highly of myself to anybody besides, we're on a podcast, so, you know, I'm going to be boastful a little bit, but, you know, I'm pretty humble, and my brother's the same, but we're also very competitive. So we get to Kent State, and we're doing something called a finisher, which everybody, you pretty much know what that is. It's sled pushes, plate pushes. There was a keg you had to carry, 160-pound keg you had to carry. Rope pull, bear crawls, you know, just this whole thing, farmers carry, this whole lineup of things. It was 100 yards, and you had to go there and all the way back, tire flips, all this stuff, right? So we're splitting up as teams, and before we do, my brother says to Coach Sharp, says that my brother and me will beat anybody on the team. You know, so mind you, we're 173 pounds. My brother's probably 185, you know, and we're not necessarily, we don't look like we're the strongest guys or, you know, whatever. And Coach Sharp says, "Oh, you freshmen think you can, you know, whatever." So Nathan says, pick your two strongest, fastest, biggest, whoever you think, your baddest guys on the team. Pick your two guys, and we're going to go against them. So, and that was Nathan's way of kind of setting, my brother's kind of a dominant individual, but that was his way of setting a precedent and saying, hey, you know, we're here, and there's a whole new work ethic that you ain't never seen. So anyways, we go, Nathan goes first. I forget who we were competing against. He goes through this thing flying, gets a 160-pound cage, slings it up on his shoulder, throws, one motion the whole time. So he goes down and back, tags me. I go down and back. First dude never even finished. So we whooped it, and that was kind of like us setting the precedent, and we kind of gave some respect right then and there, and we ended up being, you know, some leaders on the team, and you know, kind of the leaders of the competitions and stuff. But the advice that I would give to a young kid is first and foremost, if you have a dream, go get it. And second of all, you do anything and everything in your power to achieve that dream, no matter what, day in and day out. And I'm not telling you to go kill yourself. I'm not telling you to, you know, to work yourself into a hole, because you can do that. But consistency is key. And when somebody else isn't and you are, you're adding steps into your journey. And I think that when you say you have a dream and you do everything you can to back that, like I'll give you an instance. I obviously went through Division I college and was a pretty popular person. Whatever. I didn't party. I didn't drink. I've never smoked. I chose not to, and I still don't. And the reason being, besides I think it's fucking stupid, is I have a goal, I have a dream, I have an aspiration. Like I said before, I'm 5'10", I'm 173, and I'm white. Not right now, obviously I'm a little bit bigger, but why in the world would I hinder my opportunity and my chance in any way if it's not going to provide benefit with my future? Alcohol is not going to get me there. Smoking ain't going to get me there. I don't give a fuck if I'm cool. I don't give a fuck if I fit in. I don't care if it feels good. I don't care if it's a distress. I don't care what it is. If you have fun, fuck your fun. If you have a dream, you better fucking do anything and everything you can to achieve that dream. And if you don't ask me. And that's what I would tell him. I'd just say, if you don't do everything in your power, don't even say you have a dream, because it's just a joke.
Yeah, I will say, I don't know if Reno remembers that specific moment, but I'm actually going to read the text, part of the text that he sent me. Um, Nick was a QB in high school, I believe. I believe Kent. He played literally everything: running back, wide receiver, quarterback. He was a freak, low-key, a mini Christian McCaffrey. Didn't drink, but would be at parties to make sure we were all good. Just a good dude, absolute workhorse in the weight room and at practice. He was one where we'd be doing some type of crazy conditioning or finisher, and he'd make sure all the linemen finished, type of guy. So I will say that it definitely did stick out, and that's the thing that can the work ethic. Work ethic is something that is really struggling in today's world, in my opinion, like especially with the younger generation. I mean, I work a blue collar job. I have a college degree, but I still choose blue collar work because I just genuinely enjoy it. But I mean, that's what I've done. That's what my family's done. It's just what I love to do. And there's other opportunities that may lead to different type of like actually being able to use my degree in the future. But work ethic gets you, if you have a good work ethic, you can get so much further in life. And I struggle so much with people. Like I have people I graduated with that are still living with their parents and have no job, or have their own place. But I'm like, you don't have a job, and like their parents are paying for their apartment and stuff like that. Like I've struggled with that, because I'm like, it is so much more rewarding when you have a good work ethic and you work towards your goal. When you get that, it's so much more rewarding to just be handed things. Now, don't get me wrong. It is nice to be handed some things from time to time, but it is way more rewarding to work for it.
110%. I agree with you.
But the last question I'm going to ask before we get into the final segments, I got to know, do you have any funny Reno stories that you can bring up on the podcast? Because I got to have something to come at him with.
Oh, man. Reno's my dude, man. He's a big goofball. He's one of the guys that I remember getting in the huddle. And I'm the type of dude, like, guys are gassed. Guys, they're whatever. And I smile at them. And I'm in the huddle and I'm smiling. And Reno always smiled back. So I always remember that about Reno. But Reno, man, he's just a big teddy bear. He's a big goofball. He loved to have fun and was always a hard worker. And he was one of the guys I always counted on. And could always count on. Man, I don't know if I can think of any specific funny, like goofy stories, but I do remember him just being a genuine. I tell you what, though, he used to get me with that. He used to have that lip in. And my offense, they used to dip and shit. I said, I need you to be mean. I need you to be, and I need you to be aggressive. I need you to do, all this stuff. I said, the only thing I know about having a lip in is that it makes you more relaxed. It makes you more, buzzed a little. It gives you a little high. That's not what I'm looking for. Like I'm looking for you to, so, but no, I just know that he's a goofball. He's a good time and a great individual, great person. So
Reno, I'm going to get something on you. If he beats me in fantasy, I'm going to be so pissed. But this kind of moves us into the final segments of the podcast. I do have a question that I like to ask all of my guests, and it is, if you could go back in time and tell your 16-year-old self one thing, what would it be?
It's not going to be what you want it to be, but it's going to be, don't let it break you. And there's a lot more depth into that, but I kind of get into it. This past year, I had somebody in my life that completely 110,000% was committed to and planned on having a future with and getting married, and just kind of she was something that I thought I always prayed for, something that I thought I always needed and wanted and desired. And long story short, some things transpired and found some things out, and we're no longer together. So this was Wednesday before Thanksgiving of past year. And like I said, I lost my mom. My dad was kind of a brutal person. He wasn't very sympathetic growing up. He's a hard-nosed dude. And then, with my with my brother's situation, my sister's situations, and all my injuries and just things I've been through, I'd never let anything bring me down. I'd always been that guy with that mindset. And this was the first time in my life where something defeated me. And I had depression. I had anxiety. I had went through some things where, I mean, being completely frank and honest with you, I was driving down for the next season in the XFL, which was this past season. And, man, I couldn't sleep. I was throwing up. I was done. And I was driving down from Michigan to Texas, and I drove my truck right off the highway. And I was done. I mean, I was at that point where, and like I said, she broke me. And the whole season, I had people that loved me, people that supported me, people that were there. I was surrounded by a team. We were successful. I was performing. I was doing well. Still absolutely miserable. I mean, depressed because I was miserable. So I ended up getting released by Houston after game 6. I'm our starter for 4 games. We're undefeated. 2 games, they could tell me, hey, we're going to rest you because these are out of conference games. And we're going to we need to get you to the championship. Okay, I'm a competitor. I don't like it, but I played 1 series, both games. We lose both games. They call me in and say, hey, something's not working. The offense isn't performing like it was the first 4 weeks. We're going to let you go. I said, hold up. I was your starter the first 4 weeks as a Roughneck. As a Roughneck starter, I'm 9-0. And you're going to let me, but because I'm the old guy. And so long story short, it was the lowest point of my life. I lost football. I had lost the person that was the love of my life and somebody I'd prayed for from what I had thought. And now I'm on my ass. Now, there's no opportunity. There's no nothing. And that next week for me was rock bottom. And I made a decision. I said, listen, if you get another opportunity, you're getting a blessing, and you need to stop spitting on God's blessing, because that's what it was. And I was really, I was praying, and I was screaming out, please help me reach, but this whole time he had presented an opportunity to me through the XFL, through football, and I just didn't see it. And I didn't embrace it. So anyways, I go on. San Antonio picks me up. Hines Ward's my head coach. And in the next 3 weeks, I end up leading the league and receiving and, all this stuff. But I was a whole new person. I had a whole new mindset. So at that point in time, I said, once I get done with the season, I'm not going home till I'm ready. I'm not going to be, I need to get back to being me. I need to get myself fortified. I need to get myself back to where I need to be. So I didn't go home. I went home the first time in June. I was the best man in my buddy's wedding. I went home. I wrote the speech. I went to the wedding. I left. And I have traveled all over the United States. I went to Punta Cana. I've met my business partner. I put together now travel pickleball retreats. And it's been freaking amazing. It's taken me all over the place. I've met so many different people. And I'm still not home. So, and that's not because I'm afraid to go home, but it's because I finally found my joy. I found my peace. So if I could look back and I could talk to 16-year-old me, I would say to that 16-year-old kid, first and foremost, don't let nobody ever control your emotions. Second of all, never fall on your knees unless you're praying. And third of all, if you want something, go get it. And in life, I feel like so many different ways people get stuck in today's society of what's the norm, what's acceptable, what's everybody else doing. Well, in my mind, everybody else is working just to die. That ain't what I want. I want to live. And that's why I created the company with my business partners, because we put on these retreats, and they're dream bucket list vacations at a Costco price. And I said, I don't care if I make $1. I want people to be able to live their life, and I want people to be able to find that joy and that peace that I found, because I found my purpose. And I think that's the biggest thing is, if I could look back, I'd say, find your purpose and hold on to it and live. And that's it.
Man, right there, all of that you just talked about really just emulates like the whole slogan with this podcast, which is grab the bull by the horns. And the whole thing behind grab the bull by the horns is the bull is life. We are the bull rider. You're going to get thrown off. You're going to get knocked down. And you have two choices. You can get up and take control of your life, grab the bull by the horns, or you can just lay there and let it walk all over you. So that's, I love that. That's why I felt like you were going to be a perfect guest. When I started doing the research after Reno sent me the recommendation, like I definitely felt like you were going to be a perfect guest, and it definitely was true. And I think it leads us perfectly into the final segment of the podcast, which is Motivation Monday. Motivation Monday is the point in the episode where I allow the guests to give the Roughnecks listeners a little inspirational bump to set the tone for their week. So what do you got?
All right, I'm going to give you something that Pooh Bear says. And it's as cheesy as all get out. But when you think about the metaphor for life, it is so freaking astronomical. It's amazing. He says, I always get to where I'm going by walking away from where I've been. And I think if you diagnose that in so many different ways, if you have a goal, if you have a dream, if you have something in your life you want to achieve, if you want to get there, you walk away from where you're going and you go in the direction of where that's at. Or, in essence, if you're going through something similar of myself, I always get to where I'm going by walking away from where I've been. Well, why let yourself be stuck in that situation? Like I said earlier on in the podcast, you don't have to be able to see the end journey. But as long as you can see that next step, you got everything you need. And that to me is that's the best part about life is like I said, it's yours, and all you gotta do is take that step.
Exactly. You take that one step and it leads to another step, which leads to another step, and helps create. I like to think of, reaching a goal of like climbing a ladder, because it's like you can't just climb the ladder if they're so spaced out to where you can't even grab the next level. If it's smaller steps, it's a lot easier to climb that ladder. You can get up it almost a lot faster too. You can't ignore the small steps. The small steps are what's very important, and no matter what type of industry or what part of life it is, relationship, business, just everyday life, you have to take in the small steps to consideration. That's where the whole military thing of making your bed first thing in the morning. The reason they do that is because you start your day off accomplishing a goal. You're done with, you accomplished a goal. When you accomplish a goal, it makes you want to accomplish something next.
Correct. Yep. I think that's the same thing with building a house. I mean, think about putting a building block on and that's how I compare my life is I'm building my foundation. And at some point in time, whenever it's right, I'm going to have my masterpiece. But when you put the foundation in that house down, when you put that first brick down, all you see is that brick. But you consistently put brick after brick after brick after brick after brick. Eventually, you're going to have the house of your dreams. And that's a metaphor for life. You just keep putting that brick down.
Yeah, there's so many different comparisons you can make. I mean, I can think of it with work. We install pools. Like the first day we're there, usually, we tear the yard up and dig a hole, and they're like, oh, and it's like, it's got to look ugly before it looks pretty. Like it's not just it's not a day process. It's not, it takes time. But at the end, you will be happy. That's, or at least that's everybody's goal. That's what you should be striving for, is at the end, you should be able to be on your deathbed and say, I'm happy with my life. Like, yes, did we make mistakes? Yes. Mistakes are going to happen. You should make mistakes because every mistake is a learning opportunity. Just keep growing through those mistakes and keep pushing forward.
110%.
Nick, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Great guest, great episode. Where can people find and follow you on social media if you want them to?
So I only have Instagram. It'll be at Nick Holley 07. And then I also have, obviously, my company's Travel Pickleball Club, but that'll be in my bio as well. They can follow that if they have any interest. So
the links for that will also be in the episode description if you want to find them there. But until our next episode, you guys know the deal. Life is hard, and it's going to knock us down just like a bull does to a bull rider. Don't let that bull of life walk all over you. Get up, grab the bull by the horns, and take control of your life. Roughnecks out. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode of the Roughnecks Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you enjoyed it, one of the easiest ways to support the podcast is to just share the show. Send it to a friend and go to your favorite listening platform and leave a rating and review. It would be much appreciated. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter on roughneckspodcast.com and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Roughnecks